At Rally, we talked about mother strategies or key initiatives. With other companies, I've actually moved more to the kind of OKR thing. I don't know how many people have read about OKRs, objectives and key results. They're like any other tool. You can use it or misuse it. It could be awesome and create clarity, or you could be like, now just everybody's stressed out. But it kind of works. I like the idea that we have, whoops, whoa, wrong button. Sorry. Wrong button a lot. Let's just slow down. So anyway, I like the idea of clearly stated objectives is what we're trying to accomplish. Here are the key results. This is the discipline part. In my experience, if you want to be really free and inspiring and enabling of autonomy and self-direction, it really helps to have the discipline to be focused on results and to measure results and to reflect on those measurements, right, and adjust. So that's part of why I like objectives and key results. We also used strategy, or like a strategy canvas, or a A3T, I forget what T stands for, but one of the many A3 templates. So again, talk about a common language. In a quarterly steering meeting, at Rally, we would launch or what's the word I want? Doesn't matter. We would launch initiatives, key initiatives, designed to move us towards an objective, right? So here's the current state, the discipline of the A3. On the left side, first reflect. Here's the problem we're trying to solve. Here's the data that shows that we have a problem. It's all the effort of walking around and talking to people about the current state. And then the right side is, here's our hypothesis. We have a hypothesis that if we make these changes, that it'll lead to these effects, that'll lead to these results, that'll make things better, right? When we built these things, it's all right. Why do I have a desire to just grab a bottle and kind of, sorry. Whenever we charter, that's the word I want. Whenever we chartered a key initiative, we called them rocks, or we eventually called them key initiatives. There were some rules. What made a key initiative was that it was cross-departmental. This was, I think, one of the most important things. If something you wanted to do to improve the company or improve what we did was only affecting your department, that's just a departmental initiative that doesn't require all of us to pay attention to it necessarily. Rocks were things, or key initiatives were things that required at least 2 departments to collaborate. And this was part of how we created magic in the company, because we didn't ever get stuck in our silos. We were forced to collaborate across departments all the time, and to really think all the time about the fact that it takes all of us to deliver awesomeness for our customers and our people, right? And so how are we going to collaborate to do that? I have a colleague, Christopher Avery, does a lot of work on this thing called a responsibility process, but he also talks about how to form teams. And a team being not a collection of individuals, but something bigger. And one of the things he says that I love whenever you're forming a new team is, what are we here to do that requires all of us, but that can be done by it can't be done by any one of us. It requires all of us. And it's something bigger than ourselves, right? That's the kind of stuff that gets inspiring. And so that's how I think about rock teams, and that's how I think about strategies, right? Things that we have to collaborate to do. The other thing that I think gets really important around this whole process, so we want to have a strategy with a true north and objectives and key results. We want to charter initiatives that will help us move us towards those strategies. And then we want to have a cadence of checking in on those things. So at Rally, for example, we had a heartbeat in the organization. Once a year, we reflected on the previous year and came up with a new True North and new Mother strategies. Every quarter, we got together, the top 20% of the company got together and said, how are we doing against our strategies, right? And what else do we need to do in the next 3 months or so to enable us to be more successful? What do we need to change about the company? What is a thing what could we get better at, right? What processes do we need? What processes do we need to get rid of? How do we need to streamline how we work together? How do we get closer to our customers? And part of that meeting was developing a shared understanding of the current state. How are we performing, right? Everyone at that company knew. I never cared about capitalism, by the way, when I joined Rally. I kind of hated capitalism. I'd been a journalist before that. I had a higher purpose to make the world safe for democracy. But I learned to care about capitalism and profit at Rally because I figured out that we couldn't change the world if we didn't make enough money. And we couldn't continue to control our own destiny if we didn't make enough money. And so I learned to care about whether we were making enough money, and I learned to care about how our strategy was going to help us both make money and change the world. Because we talked about stuff like that on both sides. So we all knew the state of the company. We all knew the state of the business. Every department shared how they were doing and how they were feeling. Feeling. It's okay, the F word. Feeling. And it was great. And so we had a shared understanding. And so we would explore what we were able to do. And by the way, if you really, really, really want to get go crazy with this stuff, we invited our customers to attend this meeting. I mean, not all of them at once. I mean, we invited all of them, but only a few could come. And it was great. Sometimes they were prospects, potential customers. We were doing enterprise sales. So potential customers, big customers, little customers, and we'd invite them to participate. They couldn't just observe. Right? And you don't understand our process, and we have a weird language. We talk about mother strategies. It's kind of strange. But participate and help us remember to care about you and put the customer at the center of everything we do. It was fantastic. And again, talk about cadence and synchronization. So that cadence became the heartbeat of the organization. So annual True North, quarterly. And by the way we'd prepare for this meeting is the department would get together, talk about its priorities and concerns, right? And plans, and then we'd have this steering. So you'd walk in with an opinion about what we should do, right? And then we'd have this meeting, make some decisions, and then you go back to your department. You'd be like, hey guys, this is what we decided. Here's how it affects our plans. We should make some changes. I just volunteered to be on a rock. That's going to take some of my time. So that means we can't do X, Y, and Z, right? So that heartbeat of the company was something we all shared together, right? Kind of talked about the initiatives. So I kind of mentioned these initiatives. So like I said, it had to include more than one department. An initiative needed an owner or needed an executive sponsor who had to be someone in the room. The owner of the initiative had to be someone in the room. So it's good to go on vacation during quarterly steering. Just kidding. The people who would join the team to work on the initiative might not be in the room because we picked the right people. And by the way, you had to make room for that work. So it might be 10 to 20% of your time to work on this initiative. They were that important. This was not extra work. This wasn't nobody cares. This was everyone cares. This is the stuff that's going to help us be the company we're trying to be a year from now, right? So they had a lot of power, and we had a lot of discipline. We filled out the A3, and every week in the weekly management meeting, we reported on how those initiatives were going and what were we learning, and was it still worth doing, and should we keep working on it? What was going on? What help do we need? All of that stuff. So that was the discipline around that. Right. The teams themselves, how often they met depended on what they were doing. But the key was they also created a heartbeat. The whole company tended to work in sprints. Even the teams that were doing Kanban had kind of a 2-week cycle of demos. And so all teams did that. Marketing teams, sales teams, ROC teams or initiative teams, right? So lots of transparency. You know, I told you we made a product that was project management software for people doing Agile. All the initiatives were in the project management software, visible to the entire company. We had a monthly all hands. At the monthly, always, from the time we were 50 people or 10 people to the time we were 500 people, we had a monthly all hands meeting, and one of the things we reported on was, how are the rocks going? What are we learning? What's going on? Right? So lots of transparency. I said we got together every quarter to charter the rocks. Eventually, we got so mature, we got more mature in our process, and we figured out instead of sort of changing our minds every quarter about what was the most important thing, we started to use a Kanban process. So we had a backlog of initiatives that we were working on and getting ready to go. And so when we met quarterly, it was like, should we pull from the backlog, or is there something new and different? And if there's something new and different, is there something else we should say no to? Remember I started this whole talk about saying no to things? Right, so we would do that. So this feels a lot like sort of, for those of you doing Agile or Agile at scale, this could feel a little bit like what SAFe calls PI planning and what Scrum calls sprint planning. We did the same thing at the business level that our engineering teams did at the engineering level. All right? So, thinking about your own company, going back to what I kind of asked in the beginning, does your company have a true north or a vision for the year, what they want to be in a year? How would you know if you got there? What are the 2 to 4 key strategies to achieve it? How would you know if they're working? What measures do you have behind it? And by the way, I hate numbers and I hate metrics. I hate capitalism, numbers, metrics. I'm in an excellent job. I've learned to love these things. I've learned to love metrics because, I don't know, there's a part of me that wants to be graded, get an A. I can't get an A if there's no like measure. No, I don't want to work on things that don't matter. So how do we make sure things matter? And again, that's all it is. I'm not measuring. No one got in trouble if something didn't work. No one got in trouble because the strategy wasn't working. That was just a learning. Oh, wow, we learned something. That didn't work. Huh, cool. What are we going to do next? Right? So it was never punitive. Nobody's bonus was ever tied to the metrics. The metrics were just a way to know, am I still working on the most important thing? Because I love my people and I want them to work on important things. I want them to work on things that matter. Matter to us, matter to our customer, matter to our strategy. Right? So these are kind of the questions that I challenge companies to ask themselves. Right? And I love this second question here. Would you get consistent answers? If you went and asked those questions to your leaders, would you get the same answer from everybody? And if you didn't, call me. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, they might sound a little different because we all have different perspectives and personalities, but really we should be aligned, and you should challenge that. And it's easy to test by writing it down and seeing if it makes sense to anybody, right? And by the way, and writing it, I mean, we kind of did it today at SIPGate. Let's hold a workshop and talk about, like, what are other ways we could write it down that people would understand? And the people who already got it, like, oh, that wasted time. We already knew it. But that's usually not what's true. Other parts of the company are like, what? That's what we're working on? That's what you think we're working on? That's not what we were working on. Thank God we had this conversation. Right? So, yeah. So I go back to my original point. Right? We want clarity of intent, not specific work activities, right? We want to create intense organizational clarity around the purpose and intent behind the strategy so that really good decisions are made throughout the company. And then you have this company where everyone can trust each other, right? It's amazing. And this is probably more for the slides that you can download later or the video you can watch later, but like, you can begin to instantiate this by running a vision and strategy workshop, right? So we do a bunch of pre-work, right? We help everyone walk into the room prepared, figure out in advance if there's alignment or not, so that you know what your problem is. Visualize the current critical work, right, beforehand and in the meeting, so that we can look at that work and say, is it aligned or is it not aligned? Are there things we should do or stop doing? I tend to conduct empathy interviews, so if you've ever heard of that from design thinking, but instead of understanding my customer, I'm understanding the people in the room, right? And I'm trying to uncover the elephants in the room, right? Courageous leaders who really value alignment will take that elephant and put him front and center and talk about him. It's one of the reasons elephants are the symbol of my company, because we do that, right? You spend 1 or 2 days building intentional alignment and clarity. And this is a form, I mean, I don't want to make it formulaic. It's not quite my intention, but we've definitely, like, this is the model we follow all the time for all kinds of different teams at all kinds of different levels, and it works. The hardest thing is making the space and a plan help people diverge before they come together to a shared strategy. That whole true north, like the pithy statement, that's the last thing you develop. That's just the thing that makes it memorable and guides you throughout the year. Right? And then this is kind of the crazy part that leaders are sort of shocked by. We will, at the end of this meeting, make a communication plan. Like, literally, we'll pull up a Google Doc, and I'll make them author an email right now to describe to your company everything we just decided. And they're like, are you kidding? Like, can't we just do that later? And I'm like, no, because as soon as we go out of this room, it'll all start to diverge again. So let's develop the shared language right now that we're going to use to guide the company. And sometimes we use some pretty cool tools for that. Like we'll often, we were playing today with destination postcards, which comes from the book Switch. So draw a picture and send a message from a future a year from now and about what our company looks like and what our customers are doing and why they're so damn happy and all of that. So, I mean, this is really an opportunity to not just communicate, but inspire people about the work they're going to be doing. So it's a lot of fun. All right. So that's the end.